Alright, we have the first Ashen deck that I have seen top an event. We have Draco Slayers, and don't worry, we have some Lightsworn goodies for you as well. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more honest content. You know, I've been wanting to see somebody work on Ashened out here and actually make this deck into something slightly viable. And I do think that this is the first version of the deck that I've seen. I've been watching a lot of the groups, and I've just seen a lot of concepts and theories out here. So to see that this managed to make a second place finish is quite good. I also see here that we are doing the Nemesis flag and the corridor plays in here, and I know somebody's going to be like, oh, you're playing Thunder Dragon Colossus? Yeah, actually, and we're also side decking the Protoss in here as well. So, you know, if things kind of go sideways a little bit here, we can actually kind of reverse engineer this and actually be able to use this as a little bit of a support line for the deck, which is pretty good here. Now, for most of your lineup here, we are doing one Ashen for Eternity with the one Ashen Endless. And before you're like, wait a minute, you're playing multi-universe? Yes, we are. One of the things I've kind of realized with this deck, especially as things are going, is, you know, having the extra copies of Obsidian is going to be actually pretty needed. And multi-universe gives you that extra little option tree here to basically have the additional copies of multi-universe so you can go ahead and do your thing. And we're also playing, of course, the greatest game of all time, yield checking game out here. That way you can definitely just get closer to the edge. Outside of that, I mean, most of the ratios here, the 1-ofs are fine. You are focusing on Priestess as the main go-to. And of course, we are playing some Revolution Synchrons in here, so you know, you can go Ancient Fairy Dragon, Crystal Wing, a lot of the value, as we're going to call it in this deck, to ensure that you can get things going. But this is your first Ashen deck, and I think genuinely, with all of my heart, this is one of the coolest things that we have had the chance to actually see working in the meta. So cool stuff. Next up here, we have Draco Slayer with Majespecters. Now, one of the biggest things that I will say now that our dear friend Unicorn has come back into the game, a lot of people want to challenge the meta and see what they can do, and they're getting a chance to do that. One of the coolest new additions they've actually gotten here was the Pendulum Witch itself, which basically gives you probably some of the more interesting little takes that you've seen with this deck. My only complaint about this card is the fact that it's kind of unsearchable in this aspect, but it is a spellcaster monster, which, I mean, you have plenty of spellcasters, let's be honest here. But having one more little spellcaster on the way of things that you're playing with this deck is actually pretty good. It's all about how quick you can Secret Village lock your opponent out of the game so they can't actually make any progressive movements. Some other little interesting stuff here. I see we are playing Crossout Designators in here as a 2-of. I guess the only real things we really care about here are stopping Valor, which, I mean, the good news is most of this has the targeting protection, an Ash Blossom, or, you know, a well-timed Imperm somewhere along the way. Definitely interesting. I mean, if you know your opponent's playing the giant space rock in the sky here, you're going to make an issue to bring this in, because this deck definitely, and I mean most definitely, has some very hard issues with some of the, do I need to say, giant rocket in the sky. We also have Fenris to kind of clear up some more of the utility options. Most of your extra deck down here, I think, is... yeah, most of this is everything that you're pretty used to seeing, especially in these more combo-oriented decks. Your traps and your spell lineup is fine, and you do have the triple copies of the Majespecter win. Yeah, everything else looks pretty straightforward here. Congratulations to actually seeing more Majespecters. I think this has been a pretty nice deck to see added into the additional pile of things. And, yes, finally, we have some more Runic Stun for you. Now, this managed to get third place out of its event, and I'll be honest with you, Runic Stun is kind of in a very interesting position right now. We've definitely noticed in the course of the format out here that this deck isn't really doing too much right now. And you kind of have to rely on things like Majesty's Fiend. Neither player can activate those pesky monster effects, so you use this to slam down your opponent. Now, this is a little bit interesting. They are playing double Messenger apiece with triple Synchro Zone. They are playing 5 cards to ensure that the opponent basically cannot make some sort of effort to kind of clear this up, which is actually kind of wild to see. I also do see here that we have the triple torrential tribute in here as well. I guess we're at the point now that torrential kind of feels like a pretty decent resource. Being able to use this to probably dodge some of the more troublesome monsters, or dare I need say, use a battle phase effect to clear some things up. I also do see down here we are playing the triple copies of the DD Dynamite. We've definitely seen our fair use of the explosion of the meta out here, where, being able to basically burn our opponent for time for each of the removed from play cards, especially when, you start to stack these things on up, maybe your opponent's kind of looking to steal a game away from you. This card definitely ensures that that's not going to happen. I also find it interesting that this build did opt for Super Poly, and they're also playing an Embers of the Ashen in here. This is a good case here. If you know your localized metagame and you know somebody's trying out something, you can make some of those pesky little changes to adjust, but they have all of their bases covered in here. I also love the fact that Starlight Road absolutely doing work in this. Cool. Ooh, we have a Lightsworn pile for you today. First thing I see here, we have good old Nemesis Corridor in this deck for the Thunder Dragon Colossus. Yeah, that feels like a pretty normal day. I also see here that we are playing the Horus package in this, which I do think is fine. You gotta give this deck a lot of credit where credit's due. We have definitely noticed a lot of the value that, like, the King's Sarcophagus stuff gives to this deck. It lets you also get some of these more dead cards out of your hand. Obviously, you can yeet a Punishment Dragon out of your hand and, recur it back off of, like, a safe fort or something along the way. It's one of the biggest, hindrances to this deck is, you do have to play the dual bricks, but that's not really much of a problem, because the minute that this Enlightenment Dragon slaps itself down on the field, you're going to be in a crazy position. These extra deck utilities down here, the Minerva twins out here, once these two go, you're going to be going through some of the craziest combo lines. This build is also playing an Electromagnetic Turtle. This brings me great joy to see that we actually have the turtle down here, being able to quickly end a battle phase to keep you in the game. Wow. To be honest with you, for the rest of that, a lot of these Lightsworn variants that we're going to see popping up out here, I do think they're going to be a lot of local busters, and I do fully expect that to be a very good thing. I want to see more people out here testing the waters and seeing what they can actually do with these decks, because this is the kind of excitement that I want to see in, our meta. And I know a lot of people out here are very happy to be able to do the little combo piles out here. And also, Corridor being live to make Colossus is just so freaking hilarious that you can do that in this pile. But once again, that's just how the cookie is going right now and the developments for the meta. Good stuff to actually see Lightsworn doing some more good stuff. And oh man, I'm gonna have to stop taking Tenpai deck profiles. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, and not only does this deck feel like it's nearly solved at this point, you are just kind of seeing the same stuff splattered on walls with this deck right now that are definitely, making it seem pretty solved. You do see we are playing 2 copies of Fenrir, which is going to be a pretty normal thing in terms of the filtering options. You do have the dimension shifters in here instead of, Nibiru's, which I think is fine. Nib's a little bit hit or miss at some points, but he can definitely get the job done. And this is where the value begins. This is the Necro Valley and the set rotation. The value that these 2 cards can give you is, I still think Necro Valley is a must in Tenpai Dragons so far for my personal testing, but I have enjoyed seeing what this deck can do. And also, this card is ridiculously dumb. I have not had personal testing yet with the Secret Village. I obviously, being able to Nirvana High Paladin on up and kind of sit on a Secret Village is actually pretty strong. Being able to turn off your opponent's spell cards and basically force them into a very slow window of things for you for the grind game is probably some of your best resources that you could actually hope for. But outside of that, a lot of very fun things right now happening in the game, and I'm actually super excited to continue to see what more that's going to come out of this. Wow. So please, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. I will say Yu-Gi-Oh! Is looking quite exciting right now. You guys have a good rest of your day, alright? Patrons! Thank you!
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.